Okay guys, today I'm gonna talk about 5 realities of living abroad expats usually don't talk about. So who am I to talk about this topic? Well, I've spent over 30 years outside of my native country and I've lived in 7 different countries permanently. I've learned over 7 languages at different levels, of course. I do speak, read and write 4 languages fluently, so I know what it is like to move abroad, to try to blend in, to find work over there, to try to assimilate to a new culture, to adapt to a new context. I'm a multicultural person myself and I've lived in different cultures in Asia, in Russia, in Europe and traveled over 50 countries. I'm not here to brag, just as a matter of fact, I'm quite a international person. So here we go with 5 things you should know and be aware of if you want to move abroad and consider leaving your country for a less bad or better country in 2025 or later. First, you will be far from your family and your old friends. So I know you may say, I know that. Yeah, but when you have been abroad for a while, if you have been far away from your parents, for example, or from your family for 5, 10, plus 15 years, it can get difficult. It can get difficult to cope with it, because your parents, for example, are far away and one day you may wake up and say, shit, my father is 80 years old, I haven't seen him for a while. I haven't seen him getting older. Maybe he will pass away soon. And time goes on. It doesn't wait for you. So take that into consideration. Always, have the possibility to go back at least, for a month or 2 to your home country to see your parents or your brothers, your sisters, your family, or your old friends, the friends you grew up with, okay? And this is something you should be aware of. It's not always easy to be far away from your relatives, from your family. Next, you will change as time goes on, okay? You will become another person. For instance, I'm not the same person I was 15 years ago. When I was 25, so 15 years ago, my priorities and the countries I was looking for were different from what my priorities are now, and the countries I do consider now. I'm another person because I get older. My priorities change. My life experience, has changed. I know more things. So, of course, you change as a person. So the country you've chosen now may be the right fit at the moment, but in 5, 10, 15 years, 20 years from now, it may change. So you may want to move later on to another country. So it's not because you're moving to a country now, it will be a choice forever, okay? It could be okay for a while and then you may want to move to another country, or you may not. You may stay in the same country for 30, 40, 50 years, okay? It happens. But for my own experience and for what I've seen, around me, it's not often the case. A lot of expats, or call them migrants if you want to, tend to move to another country after a while because they, especially when they move, if they move to another at a younger age, when you move to a place at 20 years old, more often than not, you tend to move to another place later on, because between, let's say, 20 years old and 50 years old, that's the time frame in which you tend to change the most, okay? So take that into consideration. You will change as a person and your priorities will change, your tastes will change, and so on. Next, countries. Guess what? They change as well, okay? So you may like a country at the moment because the country offers opportunities, it offers work opportunities, it's cheaper, it's safe, you like the politics over there. Right, okay, I get it. But you don't know what will happen in 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now. It may completely change, okay? Countries change over time, so never think, okay, this country is the right fit for me. I know I will be spending my entire life there. No, you don't know. You never know, because countries change over time. They could get better, but they could get worse as well, and sometimes way worse. Laws may change, politics may change, economy may change. A lot of factors you can control, and that will most likely change the country you're living in over time. So take that into consideration as well. Nothing is granted, okay? Nothing is forever. Next one. I've done my homework here, as you can see. You will always be more or less a outsider, okay? So this depends on a lot of factors, okay? Some people blend in easier, tend to blend in better, Some people never blend in. Some people do assimilate to the local culture very quickly and very well, and some other people never assimilate to the country, the culture of the country they've moved to. Okay, it depends on your personality, on your capacity to learn the language, to understand, a new environment, to adapt, and so on. So take that into consideration. Okay, you will always be more or less an outsider. So some people at some point will speak almost as good as the local language, almost as good as native speakers, and they will be more accepted. And some other people, they will never reach even, a beginner level in the local language, and they will always be an outsider, and they will always be seen as an outsider because they don't master the local language. Some people, have a face that's look like the local most local faces, and they will be more accepted than others. Some other people, they come with a completely different face, and most likely they will never be accepted as locals, or never be considered a local, even though they hold a passport, a permanent residency, and so on, because their skin color is different, their face is different, the way they behave is different. So you will always be an outsider, more or less. Some people are almost like natives, and they are accepted like natives, and others will never. Okay, so there's no really answer to this question. Will you be able to blend in? Will you be able to assimilate and be like a local? It depends on a lot of factors. Some you can control, like your skin color, your face. You could be black, you could be Asian, you could be European, you could be Latino, and your language skills, and your capacity to adapt to a new environment. But I can tell you from experience, you will always be more or less an outsider. For example, I'm French, I'm half French, okay? I'm half French, I'm currently in France. I do speak French like a native French person, even though I'm not a native speaker of French, but I'm mistaken for I'm mistaken for a French native speaker. But sometimes I'm still considered, Russian, or not French, or I don't have a French name, for example. I do speak foreign languages, which is not something most French people do. So I'm sometimes a kind of a different French person. You know what I'm saying? Even though I've spent 17 years in this country, I'm half French, and I do speak French as a native. But a French person who has lived his entire life in France, he could say, and I don't blame them for them, because it's true. Yeah, but you're just half French. You are half Russian. You grew up in the Netherlands. You do speak English. You're very international. So you know what I'm saying. And in the Netherlands, the same. In the Netherlands, I'm not really Dutch. I do speak Dutch like a native. Okay, I grew up there, was born there. But once they know I've lived in France for a long time, I'm not completely Dutch anymore, even though I do speak Dutch at a native level, and do behave like any Dutch person there. Know what I'm saying? And these are only the countries I've lived in for a long time, or grew up in, or was born in, and do speak the languages at a native level. So when you, for example, in a country in which you didn't grow up a country in which, you know, the language is not your first language, you will always be a outsider, more or less accepted, but still never really like locals. Okay, nothing wrong with that, and I don't blame people for that, but some people can't handle this. You know, some people want to be accepted like locals. They really want to. They want to become, for example, Chinese, which is impossible. They want to become Japanese, which is impossible. A lot of French people now, they want to become Russian, which is not possible if you are not a Russian native speaker, or you don't speak Russian at a very high level. And yeah, understand, you know, a few nuances, you know, the Russian culture has. Yeah, you will never be Russian, or you will never be, you name it. You will never be Thai. No, some people online, they want to be more Thai than the Thais. No, you will never be Thai. You'll always be a Falang. You'll always be a Lao in China. You'll always be how do you say it? I forgot about Japan. Forget it. A gaijin. Okay. And next, the last but not least one, you may become homesick and feel lonely. It's very simple, but you may become homesick. You may hate a lot of things about your native country. You may hate the politics. You may say, in my country the politics are doing anything wrong. Everything is going nuts, you know. And you may not want to live there anymore. But you may be homesick anyway. Okay? Because yeah, no matter how hard you try, you can give up your US citizenship, you can try to learn foreign languages and so on, and you may succeed, but you will always be American, and you will always be seen as an American. A French will always be a French, a Russian will always be a Russian. A Dutch will always be a Dutch, a German will always be a German. You know what I'm saying? More or less I was saying, you know, it depends on your capacity to adapt and to become and to blend in. But yeah, it's not home. It will never be home, genuinely home, most likely not. Okay, so you may feel homesick. You may miss, you know, the good old days in your home country. You may miss, you know, landscapes in your home country. You may miss the food. You may miss, you know, a kind of atmosphere, a part of the mentality you still like about your own culture. You know, it's not all bad. So yeah, you may feel homesick, and I've seen foreigners, I mean Westerners abroad, who were homesick. And they were working there, they succeeded abroad, everything, they were doing fine, they had a local wife, kids and so on, but they were still homesick. And sometimes they were even talking about moving back because they felt homesick. So they didn't, some did, they didn't, most of them didn't, but still they didn't feel, you know, in a good mood every time because of this. And you may feel lonely, far away from your, as I was saying, from your parents, from your family, from your old friends, from your culture, from the mentality you know the best, from your language, from your food, from your landscape. And you may feel lonely. You may say, yeah, people are nice here, it's okay, I have a few friends, I'm well accepted, you know, I've succeeded, but I still feel lonely because I'm not among my people, so to speak. Okay? Anyway, if this was interesting, share this video. Smash that like button and don't forget to subscribe. Consider subscribing if you haven't yet. A lot of you guys are watching my videos but haven't subscribed yet. Do it. In the description you will find a few links. You can book a one-on-one call with me. Check the links below in the description. If you want to move abroad, become location independent, find work abroad, launch your online business, for example, to be able to move to a cheaper country, move to a place where there is no work. Okay, it could be the countryside, it could be, you know, a country, you know, in Eastern Europe or in Southeast Asia, for example, where wages are lower or where there's no work whatsoever, especially in the countryside. Book your one-on-one call with me, and yeah, that's all for now. Have a good one, and comment below what you guys think. If you have a lot of experience as an expatriate, leave your comment below. Tell me how you feel about this, and if there is something I didn't talk about and you would like to add, feel free to leave your comment below. And now we're out.